Welcome to the Busting Myths panel at the Vegan Social Events Sustainable Block Party and Pop-Up Market at the Stokes Cheese Stage. Love it, Stokes Cheese. Be sure to tag at Vegan Social Events and use the hashtag Vegan Social Events for any posts from today, as we would love to see your social media shares. So with me today, I have James Aspey. Yeah. Everyone loves him. He is an Australian animal rights activist who is known for taking a 1-year vow of silence. I don't know how you did that. I like to talk way too much. To raise awareness for animal cruelty, in addition to cycling 5,000 kilometers across Australia and being tattooed for 25 hours straight for charity. He has overcome a battle with leukemia, an eating disorder, and drug abuse to become one of the most well-known animal rights activists in the current movement. James has his line of sustainably made activism t-shirts, Increase the Peace clothing, available for sale today at today's event, so be sure to visit his booth after this talk if you haven't already. I think it's just across the way there, yeah? Excellent. Richard Burgess, yes? From Toronto, right? Yeah, love it. He runs the YouTube channel called Vegan Gains, which focuses on health, fitness, and science. Perfect, thank you. And then we have Zale. Hi. He is an award-winning music producer and vegan activist. I have way too much hair. He has worked with many notable artists, including Kendrick Lamar, Nicki Minaj, Kanye West, Eminem, and Party Next Door, and more. Very cool. Welcome to the stage. And then last but not least is Neil Stokes. Hello, Neil. He is a retired police detective and former die-hard omnivore who, for his entire life, felt that no meal was complete without meat, eggs, or dairy as the main. After his wife went vegan and launched her vegan cheese company, Vegan Stokes Cheese, he was exposed to a wealth of information relating to cruelty to animals, factory farming, and the massive detrimental impacts to the environment and health from consuming animal products. Neil chose to go vegan in his 50s and is now working alongside his wife making vegan cheese and promoting a vegan lifestyle. Thank you everyone for coming today. All right, so I'm just going to begin the questions, and whoever feels like they want to answer that question, go for it. What were some stereotypes about vegans that you felt you were faced with before going vegan? Perhaps some of these stereotypes were perpetuated by the mainstream media and by your social circles.
I'll answer that. The main thing the main obstacle I faced before going vegan was I had the idea as a bodybuilder that you just need to eat meat to build muscle. Vegans can't get enough protein, and even the protein sources that you can get as a vegan, they're not a complete protein, as in they don't have a complete amino acid profile. But of course, later on, I found that was just complete nonsense. There's a lot of these types of myths that are just perpetuated in popular culture. But that was the main thing. Just because I was very much into fitness, bodybuilding, I just wanted to maximize my athletic performance, and that was the first boundary before I became vegan. But after I, figured out these truths, I just went vegan immediately.
Awesome, thank you. How did those stereotypes impact your journey towards veganism?
Well, for a long time, I agreed with the ethical point of veganism. If there's a better alternative available to killing animals, then yeah, it's better ethically. But I was mostly focused on athletic performance. I was very selfish back then, and that was just the first barrier to break. And once I got through that point where I broke through that misinformation about like protein, athleticism, health, then I realized ethics are really the most important thing, and health comes second. And now I'm an ethical vegan, of course.
That's amazing, thank you. And I love that you get to be healthy and ethical all at the same time. One of the many benefits of veganism. So, is veganism limited to the privileged?
Can I answer that?
Absolutely.
I do most of the shopping in our household, And I would say that you can definitely eat really, really well on a low budget with beans. Tina, my wife, purchased an Instapot, and we use that almost every other day, and we make the most delicious foods. Tina has an East Indian background, so we were used to eating wonderfully flavorful food, but with the amount of substitutes that are available, and I think really inexpensive, much cheaper than buying regular meat products. So I would say that it's not the privilege, it's mainstream. And in fact, I would say it would be a wonderful, healthy diet for the low-income people to get a real full balanced meal.
Absolutely. There's few things cheaper than like rice, beans, potatoes.
And lentils.
And lentils. Love lentils. That's awesome. Thank you. There are a lot of rumors that vegans do not get enough nutrients or protein, and that their athletic endeavors are strictly limited to yoga and meditation. Not that there's anything wrong with those, but doesn't have to be the case. As a vegan, do you feel it is easy to keep yourself on track in your health and staying active?
I'll answer that one. I think it's incredibly easy. Like lentils are almost a perfect food. They have carbohydrates, lots of protein. They're very mineral dense, very high in iron, zinc. It's easier on a vegan diet to stay healthy, fit, and recover from exercise because you generally eat a more nutritionally complete diet. And you also eat a lot of very high antioxidant foods, which are also very important for recovery, health. So I find it's much easier on a vegan diet.
What about them complete proteins, man? Can you tell people about that?
Yeah, so there's this myth that's gone around for decades that you can't get a complete protein source in a vegan diet. Every single protein source is complete. Even oranges have a complete amino acid profile. The only food that doesn't have a complete amino acid profile is gelatin, and that mainly comes from animals. So, yeah, the only food that doesn't contain a complete protein is an animal product.
So what are people talking about, man? Like, what's wrong with them? What are they wrong about there?
Well, this myth actually started from a women's fashion magazine. I believe it was first mentioned, and it just, for whatever reason, it just became part of the popular culture, and it's completely untrue. It's extraordinarily easy to get enough protein as a vegan. I eat about 200 grams of protein per day. I eat lots of lentils, tofu, green vegetables. And vegan sources of protein are just as adequate for building muscle mass compared to animal-based sources of protein.
Go, yeah.
Someone was telling me the other day that they heard to be a vegan bodybuilder, they need to make bean powders, blend tons and tons of beans, and they just were like, I could never see myself doing that. So what would you say to someone who said something like that?
Well, you just don't need to do that. I think I kind of eat a little weird compared to most people, very plain, but I like to keep things simple. I eat a lot of lentils, oatmeal. Those are my main protein sources: lentils, oatmeal, and tofu. But there's thousands of varieties of plant foods. It's very easy to get protein on a vegan diet.
All right, man. If you say so, man.
Thank you. If you could go back, what would you tell yourself early on in your vegan journey?
I'd tell myself the banana ice cream recipe real quick. That was my biggest sticking point initially, just getting off dairy and specifically ice cream because I loved eating that so much. And when I learned that you could make ice cream from blending a few frozen bananas with a splash of soy milk, I felt like my whole life was a lie. I missed out on all these years. I think as well, I had a lot of fears about, probably the biggest fear that most people have is about, can you be healthy? And are you going to just fade away? And initially I was very selfish as well. My first question was the same as everybody's, what about protein? But really I was asking, what about these muscles I've really worked hard in the gym to build? And yeah, just knowing that you can be so healthy, so much healthier actually. And then the other thing would be just the food, thinking that I was going to have nothing good to eat, that I was going to have to live on lettuce and tofu, and realizing that, there's so many meals out there that you could never enjoy them all. There's too many vegan meals. And, all you need to do is find a few that you enjoy out of the millions, and you can circulate with breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Yeah, that were probably the two biggest things. I just thought I wasn't going to be healthy and I wasn't going to enjoy the food. And turns out that you'll actually be healthier than ever, and there's more food. You cut out like 3 foods. You cut out like meat, dairy, and eggs, and then you add chickpeas, and you add lentils. I never ate those things before. I never even had smoothies before. I never ate potatoes. So I'd steer clear of sushi and all these things.
Potatoes?
So, yeah, and I didn't even eat potatoes. I was freaking out about carbs, man. I was like, nah. Yeah, that was a thing for me. It's funny because now I eat a more varied diet than ever before. I love my food more than ever before. It's more enjoyable to eat for not just taste reasons, but also I'm eating it and I'm like just stoked knowing that there's no one died for it. So that's a pretty big plus.
Have you tried Stokes cheese?
Stokes cheese, you say?
Yes, it's really good.
Where would I find that?
It's available in the
No
booth down
way,
here.
man. I did. I think I just tried it then. Is that what I had? Is that what that was?
Yeah, cheese.
It was delicious.
I think James is right. It's all about having really delicious, wonderful food that is satiating. Because, we all have this image, especially from, the hippie days, as, going to go eat some flower petals and dandelions. And when you realize that, beans and lentils and, tofu is made with soybeans, but it's so fulfilling and satiating that, and you add a little bit of spice to the flavorings, and you can create wonderful dishes from every culture around the world. And I think there's no way I could have been able to do this for 3 years if I didn't have good food to eat. And you seem like the same kind of guy. You like good food.
We all do.
Yeah. I'll add to that. I think like before I went vegan, the main thing I ate was probably scrambled eggs and omelets and that kind of thing like 5-6 years ago, and I wasn't a cook. And then when I did go vegan, I realized that, as long as you just incorporate a lot of fresh herbs and spices, you can make anything taste amazing and taste way better than the way you ate back when you were an omnivore. And it just feels way more fulfilling. Like I look back at my life from before I was vegan and I feel like I was kind of living like this. And now I feel like more awakened in every part of my life. And especially on the cooking side, like you think it's all so hard, but you just have to try and just don't be afraid to go overboard with the spices and stuff. Because that's essentially all it takes.
Absolutely. Anytime someone tells me that vegan food is bland, I just tell them to open up their spice cabinet because the entire thing is vegan. Did you ever feel judged or experience any conflict in your personal life about your choice to go vegan? And how did you deal with it? And what advice can you give? And what advice can you give to someone who might be going through something similar?
Do you mind if I answer that, guys? I'm a former police detective, was president of our athletic association, and we used to run big, giant barbecues, and I'd be manning the barbecue, cooking up the chicken, the hamburgers, the steaks, and didn't even enter my mind that I was eating flesh from another animal. It was just part of our culture, much like Zell was talking about. Breakfast wasn't breakfast unless it had a couple of eggs and bacon, and that is still a real big cultural shock for some of my old friends. They just can't believe it. They think I've been hypnotized and that one day I'll come to my senses. But when they come to my home, Tina and I love to entertain. We always give a beautiful vegan meal, and they're just blown away at how tasty it is. Tina and I spent a month in Florida, and we had various guests visiting, and everybody got a vegan meal. And my brother, who was a total meat eater, spent a whole week, and he said, "Wow, I cannot believe how delicious the food was." He's still not quite evolved yet, but we're working on him. And that's the hard part.
I mean, I'll comment on that too. I travel quite a bit for work, and I'm in situations where I'm living amongst alpha males that, they like to make fun of the vegan in the room, and you just laugh it off. That's what I just do. I just laugh it off and just make my food and just offer everybody. And then it's funny because the people that you notice that like people are just insecure about what they're eating. Like I don't make a comment like, "Yo, you're eating death," or "You're drinking rape," or any of that kind of stuff. Like that's for them. I just do what I do, and then hopefully it inspires other people. And you know what, it has. I've seen a lot of people in my life change things and give up dairy and do a lot of stuff to better themselves. And all you can really do is be a positive example yourself, and just hope that people like come to you for advice. Because recently in the last year, you know, with all these Netflix documentaries, I've seen like so many people you'd never even guess to just hit me up being like, you got to tell me how to be vegan. And one of the things I did is I made like a resource email, just a bunch of Instagrams, YouTube channels, and just resources where people can go, like nutritionfacts.org, and I just send it to anybody who's interested. Because not everyone's going to go vegan right away, but if you're able to just give them a little bit of literature or something that helps them make it easier for themselves, maybe down the road they will, or they'll eliminate quite a bit. But it's just about being a positive example and just like not getting heated up too much in those situations. Just lead by your example, and if people have an issue with it, it's their own insecurities.
Thank you. And to that note, what should we as individuals and within the vegan community be doing to encourage others to go vegan?
I think the best way is to lead by example. Eat healthy, live a happy lifestyle. Just show how you can be a very productive, vibrant person as a vegan. And I really like to advocate with science and facts. There's so much misinformation out there that I was convinced of before I went vegan, and what turned me vegan is science and facts. So if you can just give yourself some knowledge to teach other people, that's a great way.
And some people are more inspired by, pleading to their compassionate side and pointing out their moral hypocrisies that we all had as well. Sometimes facts and figures don't work for everybody, and that's why it's important to sort of know your audience and know their sticking points and work with that. And that might be through, maybe part of that sticking points are some facts and figures that they don't understand or whatever. And maybe it's they don't know the food and you can show them that way. Or maybe it's they don't know what they're going to eat at a barbecue. Or maybe they haven't met any cool vegans before or something like that. Which I would be surprised if that's the case. But yeah, the thing is that there's so many ways to advocate, and how should we advocate, I think, depends on the person we're speaking to, and also depends on our strengths. But the definite part of it is that we should advocate in some way. There's no army out there fighting for this cause. We're the army, all of us, and we all should be doing our part in one way or another, making this a priority in our life. Hopefully one of our top priorities because you're literally able to save sentient beings from the worst suffering and this system of cycle of murder and death and everything in between. Like your conversations, your seeds that you plant can help end that. Like you're a lifesaver. Really, it's actually incredible what this information and the way we share it, the fruits of that labor, what that actually means.
Thank you. And what are some resources that you'd recommend our audience to check out?
Oh, if you haven't checked out the Vegan Gains YouTube channel, my goodness gracious. No, actually, in all seriousness, that is how many views have you got now, man?
Hundreds of millions, I think.
Hundreds of millions. Wow. And it's the funniest. Like his comment section is hilarious because he's really reaching a lot of people who are not vegan and want to argue. I saw actually a really funny video of yours once, man, where sometimes like a lot of comments go to this sort of area that's not in the published comments, and you went to it and there was just all this hate, like so much hate, you couldn't believe it. And in the video, he's just like, hey, all you haters who spend all this time writing all these comments, delete. And they all just went, boom, gone. It was so good. But so, yeah, there's a lot of vegan YouTubers out there, and there's something sort of different for everybody. Whether you're inspired by lifestyle stuff or facts and figures. I think that the documentaries are the best things to show people because it's so much work condensed into such a short amount of time. Most people can spend an hour or two getting educated. So Cowspiracy, Forks Over Knives, Earthlings, the New the new Dominion documentary, which will be online in a couple of weeks, is really powerful. Nutritionfacts.org, like you just mentioned, for their health stuff. Getting people to follow Instagram accounts that are doing recipe ideas, like Bosch, for example, or the Buddhist chef is really cool, I think, as well. And yeah, I think that's the biggest thing, like the food stuff.
We have these two girls called Two Market Girls that are putting together some amazing videos, and they're just local, but they're inspiring as hell. Yeah. And their recipes are amazing.
Definitely.
Awesome, man. Awesome. That's really cool.
Did you mention Minimalist Baker?
Minimalist Baker is also a really good one.
Yeah, she probably has the most phenomenal, like, she's the GOAT. Like, she has just beautiful pictures of all the food. You show that to a non-vegan, and they'll just follow it, in my experience, and just get inspired, because she basically is the trailblazer in that. And I think she has a recipe for anything you can imagine veganized.
I think it's a lot of deception on our parts as vegans to educate the people by feeding them without telling them that it's vegan food. And once they've finished it, then you say, how did you enjoy your dinner or your lunch? And they go, man, that was really awesome. And they go, that was a vegan meal. No way, how did that happen? Like, it's really surprising to people because they have so many preconceived expectations.
Awesome, thank you. Have any of you seen Game Changers yet? Anyone? I can't wait till that documentary comes out. I think everyone's gonna love it. It's perfect for men, particularly. What do you want people to know about vegan food?
That it tastes good and it's nutritious. The biggest problem for me before going vegan was I didn't realize how nutritious it is. It's just the best food for you. You'll feel better. Your mental awareness and just overall well-being will improve. That's the main thing.
I think the thing I'd want people to know is that you do not need meat or dairy or eggs or any animal products on your plate to feel fully satisfied and in all the ways, as in satiated, but also feeling so happy that you just enjoyed such a delicious meal. You know, it can satisfy in all the ways that the meat meals do. You'll probably feel much better after it. And it's really, a lot of the time, it's really no harder to be vegan. Initially, yeah, you'll learn a couple of new things, but it's not hard. If it was hard, there wouldn't be so many just average people doing it, you know? And there wouldn't be so many people doing it as well unless it was delicious food. So it's delicious, it's satisfying, it's healthy, it's all the things that you want your food to be, but so much better because no one had to die for it and the environment didn't suffer for it and you're not killing yourself by eating it, which is the opposite of what food should be doing for you.
I could comment on that too. The question, can you just restate the question? I just want to make sure I'm answering correctly.
What do you want people to know about vegan food?
Okay, yeah, so two sides to the question. Number one, that when you go to a vegan restaurant and you think, holy shit, this kid's here. This is expensive. You got to realize that like a lot of this food took a lot of labor, and that especially a lot of it's prepared organically. That's why the prices are high. Like especially with something like cheese, cashews, you got to soak them, you got to ferment them. And I think I would just wish that a lot of non-vegans, and maybe we educate them and let them know that a lot of effort went in to make a lot of these vegan replacements, and a lot of these vegan foods aren't subsidized by the government. So I just think that just as a society, we have to do a better job of respecting the companies that are here creating all these vegan products, because they're truly at a disadvantage being in this market compared to all the traditional stuff that has subsidies and where they're not worrying about their environmental impact. So I think like it can be very affordable to eat vegan food if you eat simply, and but if you're going out to a restaurant, just know that meal on your plate, it might have taken them a week to prepare. If it's something that's fermented, it could take them longer than that, but it takes a lot of labor. It's very labor intensive, and there's no subsidies for the vegan food the way there is for the other food. So I think that's important. Yeah,
that's a really good point, man, because you're saying like, you know, you need cashews, you need to soak them and ferment them. It's like, yeah, that's a bit of effort, I suppose. But how do you get dairy? You know what happens in the dairy industry. Like that's a pretty big mission to restrain a cow while you forcibly impregnate her and then wait 9 months for her to give birth and steal the babies and kill the boys and then, you know, hook her up to milking machines every single day and repeat the process over and over and then kill her. That sounds like a lot more effort than soaking cashews. and it's because of the subsidies. It's because of the subsidies. Which brings me to something I was going to forget until you mentioned that, and I really had to say this. There's a event happening on next week, next Saturday, July 15th, in 14th, obviously, in Ottawa. In Ottawa, it's called Nation Rising, and we're doing a march to Parliament Hill to bring awareness about the subsidies and to do some speeches about it, talk about it, and try to come up with some better alternatives for it. So that would be really good if we could see some or all of you even there. There's always power in numbers.
Thank you. And I always think, too, with vegan food, I love how people think it's like this alien thing. You're already eating vegan food, even if you're not vegan. You're eating fruits and vegetables and grains and beans. It's not some weird other thing. Just eat more of it. What benefits did you experience from going vegan?
Well, the most immediate benefit I saw was just my mental state. I've always suffered with depression my entire life, and immediately, just when I woke up in the morning, I was like, I don't want to die anymore. I've always had really, really bad depression, and it got me to the point where I could just at least tolerate living, like I could actually enjoy life a bit more. And I also saw immediate gains in the gym. I could recover much faster, just had way more energy. So those were the two main benefits I saw immediately.
Wow. Good to hear, man. I started making more money. I became more attractive, funnier. And I think probably the biggest benefits I got, here's a surprising benefit. You all know healthier, and I slept better, and there's a lot of all that kind of obvious stuff. But I'll tell you one of the benefits that I don't really talk about often, one of the coolest things from going vegan. Because when I went vegan, I still hadn't connected really to animals. I just learned that it's wrong to kill them because we don't need to for our health. But I had never still been around animals and got to know any of them or anything like that. And then over the years, and I was never an animal lover. I didn't even really like them very much. And then over the years, now, because I'm always thinking and talking about animals, the world now is totally different to me because there's so many more someones around. Like I see birds now and I'm like, whoa, look at that family, And I'm looking at ants even, I'm going, whoa, like they've got their whole little thing going on with their community. And I hang out with animals at sanctuaries and I see them in their last moments at slaughterhouses, and all of that. And now the world is so much richer because I see so much more life and so much more value in that life that was already there. And so this world is like so much more diverse and rich and beautiful because of that. And because I care about them all so much, because I care about them really for the first time ever, it's been a really like a growing of this space inside of me to let them into that. So I feel like I've got more love for so many more beings out there on this planet, and that's not something I was expecting. And even now to this day, like I used to watch slaughterhouse footage and I was just so numb. I felt nothing. And I'm just starting to really get strongly affected by that, and it's because I really see them more than ever before for who they are and what they're doing, and I can relate more to their suffering because I realize that it's so much more like my own. So I guess like to summarize what I just said is that I can see so much more value in all of these life forms on Earth, and it makes this world such a more special place to live in.
I could definitely relate to that too. For me, I was able to overcome lifelong digestive issues by going vegan, like serious problems that I had with my stomach, and loved ones around me too were able to cure themselves of rheumatoid arthritis and things like that. So I'm very grateful for veganism and for the opportunity to live without pain and to be able to just enjoy what you're eating and not have to be in pain for the rest of the day because this is the diet that is kind of indoctrinated to us from birth. So I'm definitely thankful for veganism because it changed my life, and I definitely feel like I was living my first 20 years of life with a bag over my head.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think a lot of people can relate to that for sure. Now we're just going to open it up if anyone has any questions. Yeah. You first.
How can we help the men in our lives go
Take
Okay,
away
Shane.
what they love most. Oh, brothers and dads and stuff. Okay, that won't work. I gotcha. Anyone want to say that? I don't know if I do now. Okay, that's a really great question. I think that there are so many, we all have different sticking points and things like that, and I think it's always just about figuring out what that is for the individual. So it really depends on who you're talking about. Let's say it's your boyfriend, they might think that it might be a peer pressure thing. If it's someone older who's probably matured past that, it might be that they're stuck in their ways and they think it'll be too hard to change. Or somebody might just have strong beliefs about what they believe to be healthy and not healthy and things like that. So I think really it doesn't matter if it's, who it is. It's always about figuring out what that individual person has as sticking points. But one thing that is a bit more specific to men is the kind of meat is manly myth, and it might help to introduce them to some vegans in their community. So men in the community, and you can invite them to events like this. You can invite them to potlucks or something like that, or some little parties going on or whatever's happening. And so they can sort of just see that, this isn't just for women. There's a lot of cool guys doing this and guys I could be friends with, and that could help them as well.
Yeah, and I'd say especially for younger guys that are single, I wish I knew this when I was a teenager, it's very, very easy to find vegan women who would be interested. It is true. I think
the ratio is good.
Yeah, the ratio is
so
very
easy to
good.
find
So,
vegan men.
if you have a brother or a young friend or something, it's very easy to just tell them. It's very easy to meet good, nice, attractive girls at these vegan events. So that's another definite way to convince some guys to go vegan.
So many benefits.
Yeah, definitely. I think another way too is to just I find with older people, you have to appeal to their insecurities a bit too, and there's also health ailments in a subtle way. If you know someone's suffering from something, there's definitely a video on YouTube or several videos where you could show them, hey, you're experiencing this. Look, you just search Dr. McDougall, and there's lots of people with testimonies who've overcome all types of diseases following Dr. McDougall's vegan diet. So I think appealing to people on an individual level when they're very far away from becoming vegan definitely helps, especially for men, because men can be very selfish and self-centered, and we live in a me-first generation right now. So you got to make the experience personal without scaring them or making them think it's too hard.
Thank you. We have time for just one more question. Yeah.
Thank you, Richard, for bringing up depression and vulnerability. I think in masculinity, with masculine stuff, it's good to bring up your vulnerabilities. I'm happy to hear that your depression is better now since going vegan, but I think for a lot of people, it gets worse when they go vegan. For me, that's what happened, because now I wake up and I see this atrocity going on. I'm trying to do everything I can, doing outreach, doing activism, but it just gets, the weight of it is really heavy on me. So I'm wondering if you have any advice for self-care to help with depression.
Right. Depression's really complicated, and I think it's going to massively depend on the individual. But what I find is the best way I deal with things like that, where I feel like the world is kind of bearing down on me, is to just make small incremental progress and really recognize the progress you're making. Sometimes it can feel like you're just doing absolutely nothing at all, and you're just buried in just a pile of crap that you just can't crawl out of. And really just talk to people. Try to just ask them and communicate with other people. Am I really doing anything? Because sometimes it can feel like you're not really doing much. And even with my big YouTube channel, I can definitely feel that way. And it does help to talk to other people and say, no, you're doing a great job, and you helped me do this. If you can just recognize the good you're doing in the world, I think that can definitely make you feel better when you're surrounded by all of this depressing stuff. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Can I get a big round of applause for the wonderful panelists? Thank you so much, guys. And do you just want to go through and share your social media handles and where people can find you and reach out? Or if you don't have them, that's okay. You're
Well, you can find me on YouTube at Vegan Gains, and I'm also on Twitter at Vegan Gains as well.
I'm on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube. Insta and Facebook is James Aspie, and my YouTube I just joined my girlfriend Carly, so it's now James and Carly.
Tina and I are at Vegan Stokes Cheese. At Vegan Stokes. And we're on Instagram and Facebook. So there you have it.
You can find me on social media, Zalezy, Twitter and Instagram. So follow me.
Zalezy.
There you go.
Cool, man. I will be doing that. Thanks, bro.
And go buy cheese, go buy shirts, buy all these people's wonderful things.
Cool. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much for joining us at the Busting Myths panel at the Vegan Social Events Sustainable Block Party and Pop-Up Market. You can find Vegan Social Events on vegansocialevents.com and all of the social media under Vegan Social Events. Don't forget to tag Vegan Social Events and use the hashtag Vegan Social Events on your post from today. We'd love to see your social media shares. And be sure to stop by the Tree Canada booth, which is that direction. At the entrance, and then check out all the incredible silent auction prizes up for grabs. 100% of the funds raised in the auction will be donated to Trees Canada. A big thank you to our venue sponsors, Organic Garage, and our stage sponsor, Vegan Stokes Cheese. And be sure to visit their booth and try out all of their delicious dairy-free vegan cheeses.